there's sewage raining down from the ceiling, or the place is on fire, or there's something that
normal everyday stuff.
It happens. But
the appointment and alignment committee, Mr. Brownfield redevelopment, here to demystify the operations and functions of the Grants Authority, materials management, veteran services, CNA, buy your grandma some AirPods, break it down into more layman's terms. We're just here to have a little bit of fun. Hey there, and welcome back to Ottawa Out Loud, the official podcast of Ottawa County, really the only podcast of Ottawa County, and heck, maybe even the only podcast, period. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Scott, your host. I'm super excited for this episode. I want to start off by giving a quick shout out to you guys, the incredible viewers of the show. The last episode that we posted with Justin Roebuck and Katie Bard from the elections team has over 500 views across all the platforms and is actually really quickly approaching 600 views, which is really crazy for 40 minutes of me yapping about local government. Thank goodness for our guests to keep things interesting, am I right? There is one thing that I think we could continue to work on, of course, and that is getting more participation from y'all, the viewers. If you're watching on YouTube, I want you to go down immediately, if not sooner, and leave a comment letting me know what's your favorite restaurant in Ottawa County. It's going to be relevant to today's episode because at the end of the day, guys, what's better than dinner? Golly, I love dinner. Guys, I love dinner, and I hope you do too. While you're down there, check to make sure you're subscribed so that you get all of our future episodes because we're not done. Every 3 weeks, we're going to have a new one for you talking about new gov stuff. Make sure you also like this video because when you like a video, it gets pushed out to more people and my quest for world domination will be one step closer to fruition. Also, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can comment and leave a review. This has a similar effect on the whole world domination thing, which perfectly segues us into the main topic of this episode. You're about to watch a great conversation with Bekah and Adam from our food safety team. We're going to chat all about how the public health department partners up with these food serving organizations, whether it's a restaurant, cafeteria, food truck, etc., across the county to make sure we're keeping you, community, safe. We're going to talk about some best practices for interpreting the weekly food inspection report that a lot of you see, and some tips on how to keep you and your loved ones safe while cooking at home. Frankly, I don't think there's too much I can learn from this conversation because I have watched the health inspector episode of SpongeBob a few times. You could say that. So let's get into announcements first. If you're looking just to skip right ahead to the main segment, you can skip to 1028. Our Veteran Services Department is hosting another coffee and donuts event. This one is going to be Friday, May 16th, so right after this episode is posted, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Renew Therapeutic Riding Center in Holland. These events are fantastic ways to connect with the veteran community, to learn about resources at the federal, state, local level, as well as a bunch of community resources. The hosting organization often has a big part in that as well if you're interested. Obviously, that event is the day after this episode is posted. I thought I'd mention it, but the next event, mark your calendar, is June 11. It'll be very similar, just hosted at a different location. Next up, folks, you've been waiting, I've been waiting, everyone's been waiting. The Idema Explorers Camp at Ottawa Sands is finally about to open. The grand opening ceremony is May 22nd at 3 p.m. Reservations will be opening up soon. I don't know exactly the day and time that they will be, but keep an eye out on that. You can actually subscribe to an email list to make sure you're notified when reservations do open up. For the yurts, for the tent campsites, and of course the cabins at Ottawa Sands. I just went for a walk with my dog and my wife at Ottawa Sands this past weekend, and you guys, I've been there a ton of times already because I made that documentary about it, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and you are going to love it if you've not been there. Next up, OCA is looking for volunteers for their food assistance program for seniors throughout the month of June. It is a great way to serve your community, and all it takes is a good attitude and a friendly smile. People of all ranges of ability are welcome because there's a lot of different roles when you're volunteering there. The folks over at OCA are fantastic. You may remember episode 1 of this podcast was Jen from OCA. They are great people and they do a ton for our community. Our next Board of Commissioners meeting is May 27th at 6:30 p.m. Mind the time there, because we alternate Board of Commissioners meetings between the 9 a.m. and the 6:30 p.m. time slots. That makes sure that people of all different work schedules are able to attend a meeting if they want to. And our next standing committee meetings are June 10th at 9 a.m. That would be our Planning and Policy Committee, as well as the Finance and Administration Committee. Remember that those meetings are where a lot of the magic really happens. A lot of the really in-depth information about some of the items that get passed, that all happens through those committees first, and then they get brought up to the Board of Commissioners. And at the Board of Commissioners meetings, you don't always hear a lot about them. So if you want to go really in-depth on these, I would really heavily advise watching and maybe even attending the standing committee meetings. I'm going to provide just a real quick update on our search for a permanent administrator here. We've passed the May 5th deadline for applications for the position, and our search firm, Double Hull Solutions, is currently working with a work group consisting of 4 county staff members and 6 other local government professionals from the area to analyze the applications, perform initial screenings, and ultimately identify a list of top qualified candidates. They're going to deliver that information to the Board of Commissioners, and they'll ultimately decide on the final list of the finalists here. And they're going to go through a series of public interviews. They'll have community engagement opportunities. I'm involved in this process really just as much as you guys are as residents, mostly from an observational standpoint, so I can't speak for everyone involved, but I know that our goal here through this process is to be efficient with the time and the investments that we're making into this, but really ensuring that the final selection is the best long-term solution for the county. I have yet to hear back on my application, but I'm feeling really good about my chances given my months of experience in local government. Okay, we're going to cut to meeting minutes here in 3, 2. Hey there, and welcome back to Meeting Minutes, Ottawa County Board of Commissioners meetings conveniently recapped in 3 minutes or less. I'm Scott, and today we're covering the May 13th Standing Committee meetings. Let's start with the Planning and Policy Committee. And by the way, all commissioners were present for today's meetings. Agenda item 1 was a motion to approve a 3-year contract with Holland Litho Services totaling just under $95,000 for printing and emailing newsletters and program guides for the Parks Department. The motion passed. Item 2 is a motion to amend and finalize an existing contract with Fleiss and Vandenbrink Engineers for a total of $140,000 for the Allendale segment of the Item Explorers Trail. This cost is expected to be covered through an upcoming grant application. The motion passed. Item 3 was a motion to approve a resolution addressing mental health funding shortfalls at the state level. The motion passed. Item 4 was a motion to approve a resolution supporting continued funding for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. I counted at least 13 projects funded by the GLRI in Ottawa County specifically, including a lot of ecological work in and around Ottawa Sands County Park and Lake Makatawa. The motion passed. Next up were updates from the Ottawa County branch of the Department of Health and Human Services regarding Foster Care Awareness Month, and an update from the Department of Public Health focusing on replacing discontinued software. After that, we had annual reports from the Veteran Services Department and Community Mental Health, and an update on the county administrator search process, as well as a report from IFF, one of the county's ARPA partners who has used loaned ARPA funding to create a revolving loan fund for affordable housing. Next is the Finance and Administration Committee. The first 2 agenda items involve the usual statement of review and accounts payable claims that were both passed. Item 3 was a motion to officially receive a quarterly financial status report for the General Fund and Mental Health Fund through the end of the second quarter of this fiscal year. The motion passed. Item 4 was a motion to approve a contract for $168,000 to RAM Construction to replace caulking at the Grand Haven Courthouse. The motion passed. Items 5 through 9 were motions to approve contracts for the county to provide assessing services to Crockery Township, Hudsonville, Blendon Township, Grand Haven, and Coopersville. Each motion passed. Item 10 was a motion to approve a contract for $148,000 to Fishbeck, Thompson, Carr, and Huber for services related to the ADA remodel of the Public Health Clinic. The motion passed. Item 11 was a motion to approve a 5-year, $160,000 contract with Power DMS for field training tracking software for the Sheriff's Office. The motion passed. Items 12 and 13 were motions to approve a $273,000 contract and a $144,000 contract with Sentinel Technologies for network switch installation installation and configuration as a part of the county's network refresh initiative. Both motions passed. Item 14 was a motion to approve a $1.998 million contract with People Driven Technologies for Phase 2 of the data center refresh. The motion passed. Item 15 was a motion to approve the establishment of millage rates for the 2025 tax year. The motion passed. Item 16 was a motion to approve budget adjustments in line with information found in the meeting packet. The motion passed. And we ended up with the usual update from the Treasurer's Office. And by the way, there was also an appointment and alignment committee meeting right afterwards, so make sure to check that out if you're interested. Well, folks, that's all I have for you today. Remember, you can watch the full meetings on our YouTube channel and check out the agendas and packets for each meeting on miottawa.org. Thanks for watching Meeting Minutes, and I'll catch you in 2 weeks for the May 27th board meeting. All right, everybody, we are back, and I have my two guests with me here, the wonderful Bekah and Adam from our food safety team over at the Department of Public Health. Adam, why don't you start us off? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your history with the county.
Yeah, sure. I started working for the county in 2011 or 2012 for the Parks Department. And so I have my education is in biology. I went to Hope College. I liked being outside, so I took an outdoor job right after college.
Makes sense to me.
The county was a great employer. And I had recently had a job for NOAA as like a research tech, doing like harmful algae bloom research stuff. And so that was like that was for me, that was like a little taste of like public health stuff. So we could notify people about, you know, when harmful algae blooms were in the area, and then we did some testing and stuff on it. So that was my intro to that. And then I saw an opening on the website for a food safety position, and I thought, well, I'll give it a try. Applied for it. And I started out as an inspector, and I did that for several years, doing food inspections. So clarify that kind of inspector. We do other kinds of inspections too. And then I moved over to the on-site well and septic team, did permitting and then well and septic inspections. And then about 2 years ago, I moved over to the food safety team again. Couldn't keep me away. I've enjoyed food safety. It's a cool job and career if you like to keep people safe and healthy and do positive things in the community. You can see that daily when you're doing that work. So
Nice.
It's super fun. Yeah.
Sweet. And what's your job title officially?
I'm an environmental public health supervisor for the food safety team.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Killer. Cool.
Yep.
Bekah?
So I also went to Hope College. My degree's in sociology, and I thought I was going to be a pediatrician. And
You're not?
I am not. No, I don't moonlight as a pediatrician. So I was thinking med school, but I took a gap year and did AmeriCorps at a federally qualified health center, where I was introduced to the concept of public health and the idea of systemic changes and preventative and all these things that I hadn't really known when I was pursuing a career in clinical medicine. And so then I went to get my master's in public health. And through all of this, while I was in AmeriCorps and while I was working on my master's program, I was waiting tables. And I was at work one day, and our inspector came in, and I had not met her. I'd worked there for several years, hadn't met her. And I said to myself, I think that's public health, what she's doing. Like, I really do. I was in my first semester. I was not very far into the program, but I made that connection, and she let me talk to her, ask questions about her job, public health, kind of the fun parts about it. And I had been trying to get a job at the county in the health department specifically. I was really loved waiting tables, but was sick of the nights and weekends, and so I was looking for a little more of a conventional schedule. And
Right.
About 2 weeks later, after I had talked to our inspector, this job opened up, and I applied and convinced him I knew enough about food safety and inspecting and public health, and that was back in 2015. And so I've been an
And
inspector.
now you definitely do know enough.
I try to, yes.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. Awesome. Unfortunately, all of the research that I've done on food safety inspections and everything was just the health inspector episode of SpongeBob.
Perfect.
So that's really all I've got for you guys.
Not
today.
even the health inspector episode of Friends?
No.
Oh,
no,
man, you're
just
missing out.
SpongeBob. So let's get into some just general information about food safety inspection process and just general information about what people should know about that. How frequently, are restaurants typically inspected, and what's that like from a restaurant owner's perspective?
We do them for most licenses. We do the inspections every 6 months.
Okay.
And those are unannounced inspections. We usually do them within about a 30-day window of their due date.
Sure.
Would you say that's about right? Yeah.
I will say they don't know when we're coming, but there's a vibe they always get. They always seem to know. I walk in a lot and people are like, I knew you were coming today.
But,
I just knew it. I just felt it.
yeah,
So
subconscious.
I think
It's
so.
just an aura.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's that relationship like? Because you, like I was talking about, you see it in like TV shows and everything. The health inspector. Oh no! Like, what's that like in real life?
It's a balance. So the relationship with the restaurants is one of my like favorite parts of the job. We get to know them. So I've been inspecting in a lot of the same places for a long time, and so I've gotten to know them over the years. So that's really fun. But it is a balance in that we're both a partner and I'm there as an educational resource. But at the end of the day, we are regulatory, which adds to that scary nature. And I have a fair amount of people who I would walk in and everyone would be freaked out, particularly like the staff I maybe don't talk to a lot. So like the owners, the chefs, the managers, they might know me really well, but then like the new people are like, oh my gosh, that's a health inspector.
Yeah.
And I've had to say a lot. I make them like stop, like look at me. Am I scary? Like, and then
Take a deep breath.
that usually, yeah. But yeah, it really is a balance of like we acknowledge that they have a job to do. They have hungry people, they have customers, they have food to serve, but at the same time, I have a job to do too. And so when we go in there, we are looking for mostly something we call active managerial control. So ideally, everything's perfect all the time. But what we're looking for on the twice a year, whenever we're there, is do they have people in place who know what they're doing so that if something does go wrong, they know the proper things to do? So a cooler breaks, do they know what to do about that? The ceiling tiles fall in. Do they know what to do about that? Stuff like that. So we're really looking for both. Is everything good? But also, what are they going to do on the rest of the days of the year that we're not here? It's not a checklist inspection. I know some people might think that we walk in, just like check all our boxes and say, okay, you're good to go. Yeah. Yeah. We don't do letters. We don't do grades. We don't do scores of any kind. We are looking at the processes that they're doing and just assessing, is this safe for the public or not?
What happens when you see something that doesn't meet standards? What's that process like?
Yeah, so it really depends on what it is. And so there's 3 different types of violations: priority, priority foundation, and core. Priority are going to be the things that most directly cause foodborne illness. And so those are things like not washing your hands, food that's out of temperature, not cooking things hot enough. So that's something that if it happens, that somebody's going to get sick. The next one is a priority foundation, and those don't make people sick, but they lead to people getting sick. And so something like that might be like no soap at the hand sink. So nobody's getting sick because there's no soap at the hand sink, but people pretty directly are not going to wash their hands, and then we have a problem. So that is kind of that direct connection with those. And both of those violations we really want corrected as soon as possible. So priority foundation.
That can be done while you're there.
Exactly. That's really the goal, is things like core violations, which is the 3rd type of violation. That might be the floor is broken, there's a hole in the wall, something that's not good. It leads to problems down the road, but we can do, a couple weeks, 6 months, some time to fix something like that.
If there's like those priority violations, but then they continue. Like if we go out, right? If we're out there every 6 months.
Yeah, what happens
and then
when
we see it again
people
and again.
just ignore you?
Bad things happen. Scott, no, we have a formal.
We send out the enforcer.
We do. No, we have like a formal enforcement process, and it's just based on repeated occurrences of those higher risk violations, those priority and priority foundation. That's what those ones that are more likely to lead to foodborne illness. Once we see them occur in like 3 consecutive inspections, that's when we like initiate the enforcement process. It's at first it's always a big deal because it's like public health and safety and stuff too, right? But for the first step, we'll bring them in and we'll sit them down, and like if it's one of Bekah's places, she'll sit them down and she'll have, based on the issues she's been seeing, she'll have something prepared to try to educate them and talk through it. Also relay how serious it is to them, right? And then it's the same thing. They've got they need to make it past 2 consecutive inspections after that to kind of reset that cycle. But it progresses from there, from a compliance conference to further serious. There's higher fines and things like that too.
Yeah.
So
because it really sounds like from the conversations we've had and everything, the goal is never to shut a restaurant down or anything like that, and the goal is always to educate. Right.
The goal is to protect public health, right? And sometimes we do have to do those things, right? But yeah, right. We're not walking in there expecting or wanting to shut places down. And to like for a little context too, we have a compliance conference that's like you're in trouble, happens again, then I'll come out to the restaurant, and then we'll talk more seriously about like revoking a license or closure. And then there's 2 more steps past that before we have like what we call a formal hearing to do closure. But yeah, for context, I think I did 6 or 7 of those administrative consults where I had to go visit we have 850, around 850
So
like
it's rare.
licensed places. So it is rare.
Yeah.
And then like maybe 2 will make it to the next step.
Yeah.
And they generally, I think our strategies do work to kind of educate them
Sounds like it.
and kind of motivate them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like Adam said, the goal is public health. And so, there is a formalized process for that permanent license revocation. We want to make sure we give people the opportunity while not threatening that public health. But in the event, we also might go out somewhere and there's sewage raining down from the ceiling, or the place is on fire, or, there's something that,
Just normal everyday stuff.
it happens. But but stuff like that can happen where, like, we call that an imminent health hazard. And so something like
That's like level 4.
Exactly. Yep. So something like that, we do have the authority, and we do close for public health
As
and
you
just
should.
say,
Yeah.
hey, stop the sewage, clean it up, figure that out. But then they get to reopen right away, so it gives a little bit different. It both balances, the restaurant doing what they can and getting the right steps at some point as quickly as possible, but also not threatening public health, because that's the end goal.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
What are those like? Can you like name a couple of those big things that you would close a place for?
Yeah, a common one that people don't think of is hot water. If a hot water is gone, hot water heater is broken. I mentioned, I did have to close someone once because they had sewage, like in the basement, coming down from one of the pipes, and you could kind of see it from where the staff had to come up the stairs into the kitchen. You could see the footprints, and that was a rough situation. So, that one, yes, they closed for a couple of days to get that fixed and cleaned. Fires, I just had it where I was actually shopping on the weekend, and I saw smoke, like a lot of smoke coming from one of my restaurants.
Oh no.
And people, don't think like we live here, but we do. A lot of
Right.
us live in the county or
Yeah.
surrounding areas.
You were off duty.
I was off duty, and I actually saw smoke pouring out of a restaurant, and I went over, and it was actually a dumpster fire, like a literal dumpster fire. And so that was a better case scenario.
The phrase
but
has to come from
it
some.
comes from somewhere,
Yeah,
but
wow.
yeah. So things like that might happen. Refrigeration, just really anything that's like, ooh, you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do this safely right now.
Like on an airplane and someone's having like a medical emergency. Like, all right, is there a doctor here? But like, is there a health inspector in the room anywhere? Please.
Yes.
That's wow. The weekly food inspection report. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what that is and maybe how folks can use that
Yeah.
to their advantage?
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple different places you can, if you're interested in like how restaurants are doing, where you can access that information. And it's been up on the website since we moved to our like current inspection software about 10 years ago. So we have 2 things. So the first, if you just want to go, if you're going to go to, I won't name any place, but if you want to go to a restaurant and just see what their last inspection was like, you can go to the county website, and will you put a link up for us?
I'll put a link.
put a-
Yeah,
okay.
link down below.
Okay. Yeah, you can go there. You just look it up, search it by name, make sure it's in the window. It's like a GIS program thing. So
Sure.
just make sure it's like in the little map window, the place you want to go to. And then you can look up the entire 10 years of inspections there. And then you can also subscribe to somewhere near that on the website that Scott will also link.
There will be a link for that as
link
well.
that,
We
yeah,
got
okay.
links on links on links here.
Links on links. Yeah, you can subscribe, and we have like a weekly report that will summarize all the inspections that were done in the past week, and then the number of violations kind of ranked based on like the violation type. And it's described just how Bekah described it earlier.
Sure.
By priority foundation or core. And there's a little explainer there. And then there's places that have recently opened or I think have submitted plans are in there too. And then your places that are in enforcement are in that. We have like thousands of subscribers to that. So like jump on and check it out.
Yeah.
So that's been running for about 10 years too. Yeah.
More people probably pay attention to that than they do this podcast.
Yeah, so as you're reading that, something to just kind of keep in mind is every place is really different.
Yeah.
And so it is a super useful tool to see kind of where a place is at. But we have places that are what we consider more of a simple operation, where maybe they're not doing any raw meats or just drinks or just ice cream and things like that, where they're doing it really well. They don't have any violations, which is great. But then we might have a really massive place, like a country club size, golf course size, like really large, that maybe only has 1 or 2 core violations, where they're doing a lot more complex processes, a lot more complex foods, a lot bigger of a facility even to maintain. And so that level of, just seeing 2 violations on there isn't necessarily, comparable to seeing 2 at a different facility. So keep that in mind too as you're looking at the reports, is just that it's not always comparing apples to apples. It's different restaurants all have different risks.
Well, speaking of different types of establishments, what, food or drink serving establishments do you guys typically, because obviously there's sit down restaurants, but there's more than that, right?
Yeah, we do all sorts of stuff. So we've got 7 inspectors. So Bekah's one of 7, and they are super busy because we do. Like I mentioned, we have 850 licensed places, but that includes school cafeterias, seasonal places, churches, any place that prepares food and serves it for the public.
Yeah.
Needs a license, and we've seen that number grow. I pulled numbers before our show here, and it's grown. I think in 2013 we had about 700 places, and it's steady even through COVID. It has grown. It was around 800 around 2018, 2019, and today we're close to 850.
Yeah.
So that's grown. They're very busy. But then what has also grown has been the food trucks are very popular now. And
one outside right now.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And they're parking outside our CMH building too.
Oh, nice.
We have a little rotating schedule. And we go and do those inspections too. So like tulip time last week, licenses expired. They expire at the same time every year, and tulip time was happening. We 80 vendors down to tulip time. Every one of them will get at least our heads popped in.
Yeah.
Wow. In there, and depending on the license, and may get an inspection too. So
I'm pulling you guys for this silly little podcast in a very
it's busy.
Busy time.
It's busy.
Well, extra thanks for taking time out of your schedules to come here. If a food truck, on wheels, they're moving around a lot. How frequently do they get inspected? Is it the same 6-month thing, or is it?
Yeah, it's different. They get to request their inspections. So anytime a food truck is operating somewhere in whichever county licenses them, they're required to submit a notice to the county that says, hey, we're going to be here at this day and time.
Yeah.
And then as a part of that, they're supposed to get 2 inspections a year, kind of like a regular restaurant, but they do get to request when the inspection is.
You probably can't do an unannounced one if you don't know where they're going to be.
Exactly.
You're staking out and they're headed west on 120th.
We would need more inspectors for that. Yeah.
You can't go west on 120th. I thought I was onto something there.
I will say, when I see our trucks driving around town, it is a little jarring. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that truck I see all the time is getting gas. That's, I don't know.
Here.
It's a little weird, but
Yeah.
we do, like Adam alluded to, if we're at an event or we get that notice of intent and we know they're going to be there, we might poke our head in, say hi, make sure things are still looking okay. Give them a call if needed. But yeah, it's hard to track their inspections if we don't know where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. It's good to know. I feel like a lot of people with food trucks and stuff, there may be a misconception that, oh, they don't get inspected as much, they don't get have the same standards, but they really do, right?
Yeah.
So it's just as safe as eating at a sit down restaurant. What resources are available for restaurant owners and managers from the county to make sure that they're consistently passing these inspections with flying colors? Spill the tea.
So we
Clean it up afterwards.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
We have a couple different options. Our county teaches, the health department teaches ServSafe,
Nice.
which is one version of our certified manager course. There are a lot of other options to meet a requirement for certified manager, but we do that through the county, and so they can come take one of our classes.
ServSafe is huge. That's like a big deal.
Yeah. Every place has to have what is called a certified manager, and so we do see a connection between places that have more certified managers, whether it's ServSafe or another, and then how well they do on their inspections. That knowledge is huge, and so
learning stuff makes you do better.
Yes, our health promotion team does really great with that, and so they teach that course. They offer it a couple different ways to accommodate schedules. Also, the inspector can be a really great resource. We like to have that good working relationship with people, and So specific questions, sending it to the inspector that knows the facility can be a really great tool. And then we send posters or logs or resources or just an answer or clarification if needed.
We've talked a little bit about some of the misconceptions that people tend to have. Are there any that come to mind as particularly egregiously wrong that people really should know about?
So we get the question, where do you not eat a lot?
Oh,
And so really the better question to ask your inspector is, where do you eat?
Yeah.
Our goal is public health. And so if a place is threatening public health in a way that it makes us uncomfortable or that we wouldn't want our friends or family or neighbors to eat there too, then it's not something that we're going to let Ottawa County, residents and visitors go
Right.
visit too. So, but people think we get free food a lot, and that's also a common misconception. We don't.
Yeah.
People are in hospitality, so they like to keep you comfortable. They like to feed you,
fair.
make sure you're well hydrated, all of that. But at the end of the day, that's not part of the job, because I don't want to eat the food to see if it's going to make me sick. That would be a horrible way to test that.
Not just about that. It's
Yeah.
about the stuff behind the food.
Exactly. But yeah, also we just, we don't eat food or drink at the inspection or take free gifts or anything like that. We really want to make sure that we have that line, and we're being transparent, and that we are going into a place and inspecting purely based on food code and requirements and food safety.
I will accept free food. I'm not an inspector. It's not a bribe. It's just you're giving me free food. And if anybody's watching this that has the capacity for free food or like a hat or something,
Noted.
I'm in.
Shameless. So sometimes you're at a place, right? You do a good job, you build rapport, and then people are like, also it is, depending on where you're inspected, it could be a cultural thing.
Right.
It's like, hey, I really want to give you something to take.
Yeah.
And the guy who did this position, the person who did this position before I did, he was also started as an inspector, and there was a place, and I have inspected that place. Bekah, did you inspect that place? Okay, it's no longer open, but they were notorious for this, and so we knew when we would go out there that, like, all right, these guys were going to try to give us something. One day he was there, and they tried to give him some rolls, is what they wanted to give him, and he was like, no, I can't accept it. He kind of sneaks out the back door. The inspection's done. I vividly remember this too, like screen door slapped shut, right? And then he said he got in his car and is driving away, and it was summer, his windows were down, and the guy is running out with rolls in a bag and chucks them in his back seat. They're like, you will take these rolls or else.
And he was disciplined for accepting a bribe, right?
Right, yeah, he's no longer with us then.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Which, it's heartwarming, the lengths that you have to go to not accept a kind gift. But yeah, I see that boundary as important.
It's a good,
as much
yeah,
as
it's
I
an
like to
important
joke
boundary.
about it.
Spencer has some of the best stories. So he also had one time where he went to a restaurant off hours with his family,
Oh.
and they refused to take his money. And so he's driving around town with his little kids, going to an ATM
Oh no.
to get some cash so that he could bring it back to the restaurant, leave it on the counter, and just run out because they
Yeah.
refused it. So
Oh,
we really we appreciate the gesture and the consideration, and it is from this place of welcoming and hospitality. But at
Right.
the end of the day, it is such an important
Yeah.
boundary to make sure that we're
And
staying fair.
It would never sway your opinion, but it could definitely be seen
Yeah.
as such. And yeah, setting that boundary is I can't imagine that, taking up his evening just to go find an ATM.
Restaurant people are some of the coolest people you'll ever meet. And so that's a really fun part of this, is that I really enjoyed working in restaurants, but now I get to kind of look for the hours that I was looking for, but still get to talk to managers and chefs and owners.
Yeah.
And just they're kind, they want to do a good job, they care about their customers,
Yeah.
and they just want to make sure that everybody's well fed.
I'm a big fan of dinner.
Yeah.
Just love a dinner of all kinds. So meeting someone who enjoys dinner as much as me, so much so that they want to open up a restaurant and give people food. Hey, that's great.
It's great.
That's great. Big fan of food. Do you guys ever feel like when you're in a restaurant, do you ever forget that you're not at work?
Yeah, I have to face away from kitchens. The open kitchen idea is cool looking and trendier now, but I can't do it. I have to have my back to it. Otherwise, I'll be telling whoever I'm dining with, oh, they just didn't do this or they just did that. And we're like, you need to chill.
Yeah.
But it's
You're not.
it's hard to turn off.
Ever. You're not on detail.
It's a hard habit to break too.
Yeah.
Like I haven't done inspections in a number of years, and it's still like I do not want to be by the door to the kitchen. Like I just like I'm here to enjoy my meal. But like do you ever have this when you go out with people and they're like, it is like an open kitchen, and they're like, what are you seeing back there? Do you know what I mean?
Great. Well, you also sounds like we have some tips lined up for food safety at home for
Yes.
home cooks.
Yeah. So foodsafety.gov, I mentioned earlier, I really like how they separate everything that we look for in a restaurant into like a home cooking situation.
Oh, cool.
Clean, separate, cook, chill. And so clean would be washing your hands, cleaning your surfaces, making sure that dirty things, particularly with raws, are not touching clean things and keeping everything clean. Separate, similar to not touching raw to ready to eat is the term. Keeping those separate, keeping your raws away from other things in the fridge. So even like in my fridge, we have a cheese drawer. I don't know if it's truly a cheese drawer, but we live in the Midwest, so it's a cheese drawer.
Cheese drawer. Yeah,
And
that's a cultural. That's a big part of living in West Michigan.
Yes.
Having a cheese drawer.
So in the cheese drawer, separated to the
They say we
side.
don't have any culture.
I know. So in the cheese drawer, we have a thawing drawer, and so it's a specific place for raws to thaw out,
Right.
separate from the cheese, because that's not. We want that separated
Yeah,
too. But
yeah, I don't want to get salmonella from my cheese.
no, would not recommend. So separating it, keeping things away from each other, especially dirty or raw, with clean and ready to serve, and then so chill. So keeping things cold when they should be. The one food I always tell people I didn't know until I started this job is cooked rice.
Yeah.
That actually has to be held cold. So I didn't know that until I started this job. So
Yeah.
keeping everything that needs to be refrigerated, and then also includes cooling. And so cooling, moving from hot food to cold food, has to be done pretty quickly to make
Yeah.
sure things don't grow. And so making sure that if you have leftovers, if you pre-cook something or prep something, that you let it cool down. I know when I make soup at home, I'll put it into a 9x13 pan, so it's only maybe an inch thick, and put it in the fridge and let it cool before I put it back into a bigger bowl.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the final one is cook. So cook your
Yep.
food fully. Use a food thermometer. People who know a lot more about chicken than myself will have told me that chicken can be cooked well beyond what it needs to be cooked to for safety and still be a nice pinkish color.
Yeah.
But if you cook it fast enough, it'll still have the clear juices, the white fat, all the things that look done, but only be, maybe 10 degrees less than what it should be. And so making sure to really use a food thermometer to make sure food is
It's not about the
cooked.
color. It's not about how crispy it is on the outside. It's not always about the time you leave it on. It's about the temperature.
Exactly. A lot of your foodborne illness comes from home cooking. I used to remember the percentage, and I don't off the top of my head, but it's super important to keep the good practices at home too. We get a lot of complaints from people who think it's the restaurant, which
Right.
is common. It's what our job is. That's why we take
Yeah.
that in. But 1 in 6 people get foodborne illness every year, and a lot of that is from at home.
So is there anything else you think folks should know about what you guys do, about the dining experience here in Ottawa County that would be valuable?
Could expand a little bit on, it's kind of exciting, the foodborne illness response. Like when we have, unfortunately, sometimes restaurants do get people sick.
Yeah.
And we get involved in figuring out stopping it if there's like an active outbreak, and like identifying what potential foods are impacted and just trying to help people out there. But Bekah does a lot of that and has been doing it for years.
Do like you go and like tape the area off and it's like an active crime
We have.
scene. You have tape? Oh my gosh. And you walk in and like, don't worry, everybody. The food department is here. Or
That is where people start to look a little more scared, which is valid, because
Yeah.
that's typically a little more
hat and the sunglasses and I don't know. You get like a food thermometer on your hip.
Oh, so many food thermometers.
School until you said
Yeah, so we review all complaints that come in, complaints of illness, or all even diagnoses of illness, foodborne, that would come in, and we look for patterns. And
Right.
so people who may not know each other may have eaten at the same restaurant, and then that's a big part of what I do is look at all of those complaints and say, do we have any trends? So an outbreak in Michigan food law is 2 or more people getting sick who don't live in the same household but have a common exposure. Wow. And so as soon as we have one of those, we will trigger a response. And that could be anything from going out to the restaurant right away to calling to sometimes we do go in with coolers and take food samples. Sometimes if we have reason to believe there's an ongoing threat, then we will have them close or they'll close voluntarily. We will look through and kind of see what was the issue. So the CDC's looked at a bunch of data and they have found that there's 5 main things that cause outbreaks. Food source, cooking temperature, holding, that can be both temperature and length of time. Sanitizing, and then personal hygiene. So a lot of your outbreaks, particularly at the restaurant level, are linked to personal hygiene, going to work sick, or not washing hands properly, or both. But we go through and we look and we see what's our root cause. And then there's some education, there's some retraining, there's some corrections to be made, kind of depending on what we find. And then hopefully they don't have that happen again.
Did we have a game of sorts?
Oh, yes, we hear you like games.
I've heard that as well. Sources say I like a game.
Yes, we brought you a game.
Amazing.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys for making the game. Honestly, the thing that takes the longest when I'm planning these is literally making the game. And sometimes I just decide not to do it because it's so time consuming. And, I do more stuff than just this. I have a job and this is just a part of it, you guys. What is this?
This is called What Is This? A food safety game.
That's fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Ground rules.
Just guess what it is.
Guess what it is. Okay, I'm going to guess that almost looks like a coffee grinder. Disgusting coffee grounds from a grinder that has not been cleaned since the 70s.
It is dirty. Yes. So next slide.
Sweet. Okay, it's dirty.
So this is from a pop machine. So it's the nozzle that goes up where the pop comes out, and it hasn't been cleaned in a while. Yeah. So you'll get that brown sludge.
To put it succinctly, ew. Ooh. Okay, so that's a storage rack. It's gross. That looks like is that the wall behind the storage rack? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna guess that's cinnamon.
Rust? Go back to that's rust.
Ew, wow.
Inside a cooler.
Rust is a good substitute for cinnamon. So am I supposed to be guessing like where this is, or like is this like right next to a dumpster?
Ding ding ding. Yes.
Oh!
Point for Scott. Yeah, so this is the dumpster enclosure. And so that blue one is part of the dumpster. Wow. And so they just kind of missed. But
looks like for a long time.
Yeah. They just they're like doing like 3-pointers with the trash bags.
Sometimes, yeah. Well, what can be really hard is if you have staff who aren't particularly tall with a really tall dumpster, that can be hard to or the gate's hard to open or whatever, then people will just kind of try their best. It's not uncommon to see something like this, maybe not quite that extensive, but some trash like that over the winter months because it's harder to clean, it's harder to do all the things, and then springtime they'll come and clean it. But
okay, well that's a spatula of sorts, and that spot there is blood.
It is,
right?
It's a blood fingerprint.
Wow. I don't know. It's a cutthroat business. Oh, that used to be roast beef.
Ding, ding, ding.
No way.
Yes. That's 3.
Wow.
Really good.
I mean, heavy.
That was really good. Yep.
Okay. Obviously a plant of sorts. Mixing me up with the orientation of the photo.
That is because I'm not particularly techie, and so it was whatever orientation PowerPoint led.
Is that a sink drain? And there's a plant growing out of the sink drain? Wow.
It is.
That's incredible.
Yep. So this came from a fellow inspector across the state, but yes, it's a tomato sprouting from a sink drain.
I mean, it makes sense. Don't rinse your tomato seeds down the drain.
You
never know what could happen.
No, and also tomatoes, are hardy, and it's hard.
I've heard.
Yes.
Yeah. So. All right. My thing is, this doesn't look super gross. It looks dangerous. It looks like it's on a grill, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. Is that a piece of like floor trim that was sticking out in a hazardous way?
That is a makeshift food utensil. So they were using this as part of their cooking process.
Okay. Is that legal as long as
No.
it's clean?
No.
No.
We also look for durability and cleanability. And so something like wood that's super porous, that's going to be really not what we
And
consider cleanable enough.
What appears to be hot glue keeping that nail in place.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of characteristics of that we don't love.
So I will go home and I will throw mine away.
Perfect.
That's Freddie, and he's mine. That's what I get. That's what I get if I win.
That was the noise on the hall.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a raccoon. His name is Freddie. Friends in a dumpster.
Yeah.
Oh. It's Gina, Freddie, Amber, and Clyde.
Perfect. Thanks for playing. But
Did I win?
yes, you did great.
Okay.
Yeah, these pictures are a lot. But
Right.
what's so interesting about this job is that, like, the first picture, the pop nozzle, that could be the only thing that was wrong in the whole restaurant. So we have a noteworthy picture, but it's just a violation may not be an indicator of, like, how the whole thing works.
Right.
So when you do follow the link and look to get our food reports every week, just keep in mind that, sometimes even a noteworthy thing like this that we save the picture years later might just be a fluky thing. It might be like the roast beef is like when you forget your leftovers in your fridge.
And, like, they wouldn't be putting that on a sandwich.
Exactly.
That just happened to be in the storeroom or whatever
Exactly.
somewhere. Right. Cool. Well, what do I win?
The raccoons.
We weren't kidding. Come on, guys. Come on over. Well, I have a prize for you guys
Oh, man.
for being willing to come on this podcast and talk about what you do and take time out of your busy schedules. Are you ready? A nice, refreshing Diet Coke. Man. Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's crazy. For anyone wondering why Diet Coke is such a big deal, I know, Bekah, you're obsessed with Diet Coke. That's a staple. Is that a normal thing for the team, or is it just a you thing?
It's a Bekah thing.
All right. Wow, guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. That was a great conversation. Big round of applause to Adam and Bekah for being willing to come on the podcast today and all the great information that they had for us. That's really all we have for you today, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Again, make sure you're liking this. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure if you're listening on a podcast platform that you're giving it a good rating, because don't you want other people to experience this wonderful thing that we call Ottawa Out Loud? So that's pretty sick. Remember, folks, knowledge is power, and local government works best when you're a part of it. And I really mean that. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for listening to Ottawa Out Loud. Make sure to let us know what you think with a like, review, or comment, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. Check the description for links to everything we talked about in the show. See you next time.